All right, and welcome to Fastbreak Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith Parrish, and I'm here once again with my buddy through the miracle of computer phone. I'm here with John Burr. John, how have you been?
Not great. Not great, but I'm happy to be here, happy to be back. It certainly, while I may not have podcasted in probably a month, I was not on vacation.
Yeah,
and will be taking a vacation soon.
That's
so don't
right.
Don't get too used to seeing me.
Well, I was going to say basketball podcasting, sort of a vacation from real life.
God.
No, I've been missing you. Can you give us any views or glimpses into what your work life has been, or is it all proprietary?
No, I can talk about it because so I basically have a company that started 2 years ago where we manage the legacies and rights of a number of artists. And I would say our two biggest artists are Tony Bennett, who died
R.I.P.
a few weeks ago, and Robbie Robertson, who died the week after that. So
R.I.P.
It has just been a maelstrom of work and, emotion. So
Gotcha.
it's been I've kept my ear to the ground, listening to the rumblings of hoopery, and I found out something about what we do that I'm curious if this is going to happen to us as well. I guess it's a result of the churn and maybe progress as a society, but do we have to talk about international and women's basketball also? Is this Hoops Life podcast? Because
we are specifically a NBA podcast.
Okay.
The term I always use is bandwidth. I don't have
Right.
the bandwidth to cover the WNBA. Lots of people are doing that because, basketball's full time. However, for FIBA and international basketball, since there are so many NBA players playing, and I am naturally interested in it, I do cover FIBA on this show. I cannot, I'm vaguely aware and I'm learning more and more about the WNBA, but I don't watch it. And I gave up on college football, which I grew up as my number one love. It's I can't watch all these sports anymore. So this is only, don't worry, John.
Right.
This podcast only about the NBA and also breakfast and also 90s movies and about being basically an older dad.
Okay, just checking because there's probably 40% of the podcast I listen to being dedicated to the Connecticut Sun, and I keep thinking it's a newspaper before I figure out that what they're talking about. So I'm like, do I need to take this plunge? I'm not averse to it.
I know the Las Vegas Aces are really good. And
right.
That's about the depth of my knowledge. I Breanna Stewart's my favorite player. I don't know why.
Is she the 3-point lady?
No, I believe you're thinking of Ionescu. She's the best shooter.
So for some reason I keep calling Ionescu Lee Iacocca.
I don't. Yeah, that
and
goes back to old dad podcasting. Before we embarrass ourselves with our ignorance of the elite basketball that is going on currently, John, I was in your neighborhood specifically. I was in what I consider to be your home and was surprised I didn't see you. I went to the famous Opry Mills food court.
I was there 2 hours after you were.
So I was there at just to catch a 10:40 a.m. film.
Woo!
Oppenheimer, 70 millimeter. The audacity of Christopher Nolan to make a 3-hour film in the times of my bladder. That was my entire focus. Was I can't have any, I'm gonna drink coffee.
Terrible news. All movies are 3 hours now.
I'm gonna have coffee at 7:30, and then I'm gonna go to a hard liquid cutoff about I was 8:30, no more liquids are coming into me because I got to dehydrate. I got to clear out because I'm not getting out and walking out. I'm not walking out of the theater. Mission accomplished. But I was eating there. So 10:40 a.m. movie. I figure it'll get done at 2 because I assume they're packing on a bunch of previews. No previews.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool. It was more like a rock show.
That's a Nolan thing. That's not normal.
So Nolan can have a contract to be like, hey, listen, no previews.
I think Nolan got screwed so bad by Tenet that he's able to pull out all the stops.
Yeah.
For this one. He's like, look, I want to be in the IMAX theaters for 120 days.
Right.
And they're like, and he's like, and if you don't, because basically Tenet, just he didn't get his theatrical release. He didn't get any of the stuff he wanted.
A lot of that was COVID, obviously.
And honestly, I think he probably lucked out because while I'm like I adhere to the tenet.
Yeah.
That is an incomprehensible, unintelligible film.
Right.
So he's probably lucky that one didn't just sully his name forever, and he came back with this family-friendly story of a man who dropped an atomic bomb on a couple of cities.
That's right. So I liked it because it was like a rock show.
Yeah.
Where I got in there at 10:46 and I'm like, oh wait, is this movie like nothing was happening? And then it was like 10:53, still nothing happening. And I'm like, is someone supposed to go like back in the day, get up and find an usher and be like, hey, there's no movie playing. But then like a minute later, it just started rolling, and you heard the loud IMAX camera or projector, and I didn't know if that's why there was no previews, because there's like they had to like move out the old stuff to put the new projector in there. I don't know, but it was a rock roaring ride of white people talking. And I enjoyed the 3 hours a lot.
So I've seen the first 40 minutes twice.
Yeah.
And it seems like my 40 minutes, it seems like JFK for morons. But
okay.
I just so happen to love JFK and am a moron.
You mean the film, Oliver Stone's film JFK?
Yes.
And,
yes.
Which again, it's like pop history with like famous names and like a nonstop parade of guest stars.
Yes.
There is some of that. And I think being ignorant enough of history, I could be thoroughly entertained. And I would imagine someone who was an expert on the time, probably outraged by the film. It also had a lot of that like Star Wars prequel hokiness, where they say names of things that are supposed to have an impact.
Right.
And it's like, oh, well, this is, whatever. Like you name a thing that if you've never seen a previous movie.
Werner von Braun, dun dun dun.
Yeah. Well, even bigger. Early
in the theaters, like
early in the movie, the spoiler, first 20 minutes of Oppenheimer, he says something like, and we'll call it. He's like, I just want to go back to Los Alamos. Wink at the camera, and it's like they're dropping scientist names. And it's like, well, maybe you can meet my friend, Albert Einstein. And it's the whole thing. So much of the movie, it's like, perhaps you've heard of this senator from Massachusetts. His name's Kennedy. And it's like, there was a lot of that where I'm like, all right, I can imagine maybe being a little pickier. Also, the I am Death Destroyer of Worlds dropping in the film. Absolutely hysterical. Wait for it. Go check it out. Absolutely hysterical how it comes out.
I'm going to finish it. The first time I saw it, the film broke. The second time I tried to see it, I tried to go you went at 10:40 a.m. I tried to go at 10:40 p.m.
Yeah, I can't do that.
And after 40 minutes, I went, I think I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm going to be trapped in the theater overnight. I have to leave. I have no choice but to leave.
Yep. So speaking of 10:45 movie, I at the food court had a 10:30 a.m. fried rice and bourbon chicken.
I hope it was from a Cajun restaurant.
It wasn't from the Cajun restaurant. It was from the Japanese restaurant. They serve side by side. They serve bourbon chicken.
Same diff, baby.
It's the same food, same thing. That was a really great breakfast I had yesterday. John, have you had a good breakfast recently? Today, yesterday, anytime?
Good.
Past
No.
You'd like to talk about?
Sweet. Yes, I just consumed in frightening fashion two donuts from McGaw's. I couldn't come back without doing some McGaw's.
Yeah.
Right now I'm on a cinnamon roll Bavarian cream kick.
Ooh.
Those are two separate donuts.
I was about to say, you roll that all together. Hello.
I would like to try a variant that involved both a genetic mutation of sorts.
Yeah.
But pretty good pairing. Overly sweet, cloying almost.
Sure.
But they've got just enough salt in their mix to where I can make it happen.
That sounds great. I would definitely.
I'm solo parenting right now, so I did buy some for the way home.
Right.
When I pick the child up when she's not, because I will just feed her nothing but candy and sugar 4 meals when I'm solo parenting. Of
course.
And then I will never
ever
admit to doing this ever to my partner.
Yeah, exactly.
When she asked me what I fed the child, I'm like, we started with a first course of celery soup, followed by a high grain superfood medley.
Yeah.
When in actuality, I'm like, here's some Skittles. Here are 3 Snickers bars Go into your room, freak out for 2 hours until you can't freak out anymore. Then we're going to bed.
Perfect.
Also, you like pour some water on her head to make it appear that maybe you bathed her.
Yeah. Parenting tips. Well done. Anyways, those were our breakfasts. It's been a while. And of course, after our breakfasts come our breakfast in bed apologies. It's also been a while since I've made right what I might have gotten wrong in a previous episode. Without having just, repented basically for an entire month. Are there things, John, weighing heavily on you that you'd like to apologize for? I have certainly something that I made a mistake on. I'll go ahead and start for you, John. The error, the great error I made the last time you and I were talking, we were discussing Summer League, and I misspoke. I was talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers' triumphant Summer League conquest, and I said they were led by Sam Hauser, when of course I meant Sam Merrill.
Sam Hauser's Celtic guy, right?
Right, yeah. Celtic shooter. And Sam Merrill, of course, played for the Cleveland Cavaliers Summer League team, averaged 20 points per game, averaged 5 made threes per game. I apologize. There's no excuse for me mistaking Sam Merrill, who's
he's a Summer League guy.
He's a white shooter who looks like Rolf from Sound of Music, with Sam Hauser, who's also a white three-point shooter who looks exactly like Rolf from Sound of Music. So
that would be like a JFK, the movie expert, mistaking John Candy for John Belushi.
Very much so. Very much so. That's a very good analogy. Thank you. So I apologize for that. Is there anything, John, that comes to your mind that you would like to make right?
Other than missing a month's worth of shows?
Well, then you could apologize.
I'm going to, I feel like I have an apology to our Patreon only fantasy leagues.
Okay.
Because I've discovered something about myself in the last few years of fantasy basketballery.
Okay.
I'd gotten too close to, I couldn't see the forest for the trees in my fantasy performance anymore. I was eschewing players like Giannis Antetokounmpo for players like Sam Merrill and Sam Hauser. I was more concerned with having hipsterish, trendy players digging in the crates, as it were, because I just returned to fantasy football and maybe had the best draft of my life because I didn't know enough to kill myself. You know what I mean? It was data driven. I have stars. I haven't had a star on my fantasy basketball team in so long. Like, the best player I've had on my fantasy basketball team in years is like second year Tyrese Halliburton, who's damned good, but no stars on my team. But I apologize to our patrons because this is an awakening. I'm back. I will have top 3 players on my squad this year. I'm no longer caught in the dense woods of hipster tomfoolery when it comes to my fantasy.
I think we learned that when we started doing we did this podcast and things, and it's just like a forest for the trees approach works really well in fantasy sports. It also works really well in predictions, where it's like, well, these are the reasons the Cavaliers are actually going to win 41 games. And it's like, man, you're working too hard. Just they're probably easily 45, 47. You don't have to get into oh man, but Sam Merrill, what if he can give them, that shooting they were sorely lacking. It's like, no, slap across the face. Sam Merrill's not going to play a minute for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's a good one. By the way, fantasy sports, might as well announce it. Our fantasy football draft, for anyone who wants to play fantasy football. I know fantasy football is amoral. We're still doing it. That draft will be Tuesday, September 5th. Playing on Sleeper. To play, you have to be a Patreon supporter. Join at patreon.com/fastbreak breakfast. You got to be at that $5 tier. So if you're there and you want to play fantasy football, make sure you send me an email. Go to, again, patreon.com/fastbreak breakfast to get that email address. Also, I'd like to welcome, by the way, might as well, apology for not doing this sooner, welcome some of our newest patrons. We have Joffrey Danouvi. I hope that I'm saying that right. I can't pronounce French words. See croissant.
He's a very impressive spelling of the name, Jeffrey.
Joffrey, perhaps. Welcome Bryce Crabb to the Patreon family. Also, Ja. I think we all know who that is. Thank you.
Stay offline, Ja.
Thank you to TDP. Thank you to JT. Thank you to George O. And thank you, Josh Boyd, for all supporting the creation of this show. Anybody else wants to get involved with our Slack channel, with our fantasy football or basketball when that comes up, make sure you support us over at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, steak and eggs, John. It's been a month. What's the best thing that you've seen?
Besides James Harden mopeding his way out of Sixers fans' hearts, I'm going to stay in the James Harden verse.
Sure.
And I'm going to make an analogy that you may not understand.
Okay.
I think I have figured out.
Used to it.
And this might be for those in the chat. I think I've figured out what Daryl Morey's problem is.
Okay.
He may be a good GM, but I don't think he's a good DM. And when I say DM, I'm referring to Dungeon Master. Because I think the situation we have here is the 76ers are trying to play Dungeons and Dragons, and they've invited a player into their play group who does not understand the rules nor play by the same rules as them. James Harden is the drunken, vagrant friend that you bring into your Dungeons and Dragons group who is not going to cast Magic Missile and is not going to try to talk to the non-player characters. He's going to try to kill everything in the room with as large a weapon as he can afford on his character sheet budget. James Harden isn't really online, doesn't really adhere to the stories we've been telling about him. Kevin O'Connor writes, James Harden just had the worst playoff exit of his career. James Harden's like, I scored 45 points and 42 points in 2 of those games.
Yeah.
Pay me.
I mean, weren't the Sixers like, this stat's wrong. I can apologize for it next week. I'm going with vibes, just auras of truth.
Yeah.
Weren't the Sixers undefeated in the postseason when James Harden shot like over 35%?
Right.
Something. He just happened to shoot like 3 for 17 every few games.
Daryl Morey's like, we're going into Mordor. No one make a sound. And James Harden is just parading around, stomping his feet. Is he Leroy Jenkins? Basically, we have Leroy Jenkins, carousing at all times. And really, I mean, I'd always heard about players going on shoe tours, etc. But are we sure James Harden didn't go to China just to rub extra salt into Daryl Morey's tumultuous history with China?
I think yes. I think there's something to that. I think most of us found it very funny when I think Chris Haynes tweeted the NBA is preparing to fine James Harden a significant.
Can you explain that? Can you explain why did he get fined $100,000 for complaining about his boss?
Well, because they're trying to crack down on the old public trade demands. Bad for business. Conduct detrimental to the league.
Too late for that, right?
And they are interpreting. They are that's because he's done it we've had these constant trade demands from everyone, and they determined that Harden saying I will never play for a team that employs Daryl Morey, they determined that as a trade request. To me, that sounds like a fire my boss request. Right? That's a straight up fire my boss request. What's funny is, so now the Players Association has appealed this a $100,000 fine, and they're going to go to an arbiter, or I don't know how. Like, maybe you can help me, John, because you have more experience in maybe the corporate world. So the NBA has to pay all their lawyers to try to uphold this $100,000 fine. At what point is it not worth it?
This point.
Yeah, it's like you're going to court with these, whatever,
at this
$2,000 an hour, like corporate attorneys to try to get $100,000.
I assume the NBA have many lawyers on retainer, so it's fine.
It's fine.
But in my world, we're probably at $100,000 by Wednesday. Afterwards, I mean, every phone call you make with a lawyer is thousands of dollars.
Although this is similar to how I like to maintain a running balance on my medical insurance. Like if I get a medical bill, it's like $90. I've talked about this before. If it's $90, I pay $70 and I just leave 20 there. And then I get like bills collectors calls for $20. And I'm like, you're just burning money. Like you're going to come after me for $20. It cracks me up for some reason. And I keep doing it. So
and medical bills, those are the ones that affect your credit the least, right?
Right. Yeah. It's apparently not allowed to affect your credit. Although
I need to steal this.
Credit scores, total black box for me. No idea what it is. No idea what my score is. I have not been paying my medical bills in full for a very long time.
I'm doing post surgery rehab on the aforementioned knee injury.
Right. And how's that going?
Horribly.
Okay.
Sadomasochistic torture sessions. I don't understand what my insurance is for. I'm paying. Yeah, I have the best insurance you could imagine. That's like why this whole corporate journey I've been on has been all about insurance for my family and my child.
Of course.
Mostly. That's pretty much it. The only reason I did it. I was happy to do whatever it is we're doing for the rest of my life.
You work for medical insurance. I work for Legos and LaCroix.
Right.
Yeah. So we all do. We all have a reason we wake up in the morning and strap on the old microphones and headsets.
And I'm paying $55 every time I go to physical therapy, which is 3 times a week.
Yeah. That's a lot.
For most people, this would ruin their life.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. We can change Fastbreak Breakfast to like an investigative podcast about the American healthcare system. I wouldn't have had a physical, like a normal physical, just to make sure I'm not dying of anything.
Yeah.
The copay was like $40. And then it was another, like, again, this is with like the most expensive health insurance that they offer.
Yeah.
And then it was like, and then afterwards there was the $240 charge for like lab work. And it's like, how is a normal physical cost the same?
What was it going to cost?
Right. How is just going to see your primary care doctor for a physical with insurance cost $280? I didn't pay it.
Yeah, good for you.
So I'm like, oh, what that's not right. Speaking of not paying somebody or not wanting to pay something, my best thing is the Mavericks apparently are pulling out the classic move of the wave and stretch.
Yeah, buddy.
They are eating all of JaVale McGee's contract, according to Mark Stein. This was their top free agent acquisition of last year. They traded, they traded a late first round pick for Christian Wood, and then they used like basically their MLE. I can't remember if it was cap space. I think it was just MLE on giving a 3-year deal, 2 years plus a player option to JaVale McGee, who in their defense was pretty solid as a backup center for the Suns the previous season.
All players are pretty solid as backup centers for the Suns. We've been over this.
That's right. Any backup center who plays with Chris Paul looks pretty good.
Any player. Yeah.
Good news to who's the backup center for? Is this Dario Saric now? Who's the backup center for the Warriors? We'll call Saric the backup center. But the Mavericks have just lit their team on fire for a solid year. Like I was pretty happy with the way they all right, they picked up Rashawn Holmes' salary from the Kings. They picked up the draft rights to Omax Prosper for doing that. Seemed like a good bit of work. They traded down with the Thunder apparently to get the non-shooting big they wanted in the draft. But seems like this summer they're doing okay. But now, for whatever reason, they're going to wave and stretch JaVale. I guess it opens up a few $1 million for next offseason if maybe you need that. But that combined with the Kyrie Irving trade, combined with missing the playoffs last year, I'm taking a little bit of delight, a little bit of glee in the team I thought would be the toughest rival in the Southwest Division against my Grizzlies, just continuing to bungle their way through the Luka Doncic years. So that's my best thing. Thank you very much, Dallas Mavericks, for not getting it right, not surrounding Luka with the exact players he needs, and fingers crossed, it'll continue to go that way.
He might just be good enough for them to still be successful, but they certainly haven't earned it in any regard. Regard.
He also might be able to carry Slovenia to some wins at the upcoming FIBA World Cup. Those were our best things, our steak and eggs best things. The opposite of that is our cream of wheat worst thing. Speaking of the World Cup, John, here's my worst thing.
Is it the World Cup?
No, it's not the World Cup.
Good.
I was initially excited that Bahamas, this is not World Cup. This is international basketball. I was initially excited that Bahamas was able to add Eric Gordon to play for their country, for their national team, because they already had DeAndre Ayton. They already had Buddy Hield. And I'm like, oh, now you got Eric Gordon. That's a pretty fun team. And I was thinking of this as just a broad fan of watching NBA players doing international competitions. And in my mind, the more countries that had just a handful of NBA players, the more fun that is to watch generally. And so I was excited. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Bahamas gets Eric Gordon. Now, in my excitement, I didn't think through how what's good for Bahamas could be bad for other countries. And this played out as Bahamas qualified for the Olympics in this pre-qualifying tournament because of Eric Gordon being awesome. Eric Gordon went nuts in this tournament, but because of them making it, that means Argentina did not make it, and Argentina is now going to miss the Olympics for the first time in like 20-something years. And
seems a little unfair.
And it does feel a little bit unfair. And
fake Bahamians.
And famous Argentinian national player and Chicago Bull legend, Andres Nocioni, he called this out. He said, is it fair what Bahamas did, quote, to nationalize a player who had already competed for the United States, even winning a World Cup at the last minute? And I'm like, you know what? That does sound like it's a pretty solid grief. He said, Nocioni says, this kind of signing belongs in a club competition, not a national teams tournament. He said, let's not lose the essence of international competitions. And I agree wholeheartedly. It is not fair. And I feel particularly aggrieved because as a very casual Major League Soccer fan for my hometown club, Nashville Soccer, we went out in this brand new Leagues Cup thing. We went out to Lionel Messi and my 8-year-old son watching our team lose to Messi on penalties in the final. And my 8-year-old son, who's watched a handful of every Messi game in the MLS, and also my 5-year-old daughter, we've never seen Messi lose because they've won every match. Just on Wednesday night, there's another tournament going on. They eliminated one of the better teams, Cincinnati, on penalty kicks. And my son says, it's not fair that Miami gets Messi. And I'm like, correct. There is zero argument that it is
not fair that they get Sergio. It's not fair
or Jordi Alba or Sergio Busquets. The league and Apple bought these players to put them on the last place team in the Eastern Conference for the good of the sport. The same thing as FIBA doing Eric Gordon on the Bahamas for the good of the sport. And so I'm sympathetic. This also, is maybe.
I think we both watched the Messi stuff. He's not even trying.
Dude,
he's like half speed Messi. And he's still dominating. And that so brings good. You to my worst of the week.
Okay, what's your worst thing?
If we didn't have these plentiful playback FIBA watch parties that you've been having for our patrons and for everyone, really,
for everybody,
I wouldn't be able to find in my old age FIBA games or MLS games because my what used to be my portal into watching sports, ESPN, doesn't put their scores up, doesn't show you where to find either of these leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just like trying to hide it to make sure I watch as much college football preview shows as I possibly can.
So during the playbacks, basically everyone, I'm like, I can't find a box score for this, guys.
I know.
So like the FIBA exhibition games were on Fox Sports. Some of them on Fox. They're on Fox Sports 1. Someone finally linked me where the FIBA men's RUS team has a site that's pretty good, but like Googling doesn't take me there. DuckDuckGoing doesn't take me there. Like I'm like, I type
what
in
is
like
that?
That's my default. It's like this default browser that's been coming up.
That, like Bing, what's happening here?
I think they bought Ask Jeeves. Oh. No, but like, so I finally found these box scores, and then I finally found an entire list of all FIBA exhibitions because I'm like, I want to find all these other box scores. I'm looking up my guy Lee Kaiser / Kyle Anderson, the Chinese national. I'm like, I saw one game he had 18 points, 4 steals, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so awesome. But then I went to this again. I'm on this FIBA site that has every exhibition that's being played, and I clicked on one of the Chinese box scores, and it took me to Instagram. And I was like, I don't want to, I'm closing that link. I don't know what that's going to be. But yeah, you're right. It's really hard to find where the games are on. I think the World Cup games are all on ESPN Plus. So by the way, if you have ESPN or ESPN Plus, you can watch the FIBA World Cup once it kicks off. This all goes back to old man yells at the modern streaming universe of trying to figure out where all my games are. Like MLS sort of solved it. Oh, it's all on Apple TV, except for the Lamar Hunt Open Cup, which apparently was on Golazo.
I think they're going to get me with this. Teams have their own subscription package thing just for simplicity's sake.
Well, I mean, I don't know why the NBA or like, is Apple going to buy? I mean, Apple's saying they might buy ESPN, by the way. So like that could really solve some things. Yeah. The watching the NBA is difficult. Like we know when the schedule came out last week and everyone's counting their national TV, ESPN and TNT and ABC games. But then there's those accursed NBA TV games where like those are sometimes on League Pass. And I know they tried to fix it last year where if you had League Pass, you could get it. But like a lot of people don't have League Pass, but that if it's on NBA TV, they can't watch it anymore. It's not like it's just, I don't know. It seems so hard to track where the games are. But anyways, now we're rambling. Those were our steak and eggs worst thing. Before we get to the awards segment of the program, we have a couple of listener submitted questions. The croissant questioner.
Drew asks, will it lead to any confusion when the Minnesota Timberwolves, in Lakers Kobe style, double retire number 1 for Anthony Edwards and number 1 for Kyle Anderson and number 5 for Kyle Anderson and number 5 for Anthony Edwards?
It's a great
I have
question.
a few questions first.
Well, it's also a great question for Kobe Day. Happy Kobe Day, John. Recording this on 8/24. Yeah. What are the questions you have, John?
How good does a team need to be to get to retire players for numbers who didn't make like all-star teams, etc.?
Well, we have Nick Collison with a retired number.
Thunder went to finals.
They did go to finals. We have Tony Allen.
Minnesota Timberwolves are never going.
We have Tony Allen technically with a half retired jersey.
Tony Allen went to the West Coast Finals. Also, I don't know.
Western Conference. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, maybe that answers it.
He didn't need to, though. I don't think.
So do just all teams do this? I don't know.
How far?
I think the Grizzlies should retire.
How far did Sean Marion get? They have conference finals.
Finals, yeah, conference finals.
Yeah, I mean, I love Sean Marion and Sean Marion's stat. I'm not comparing Sean Marion and Tony Allen. Sean Marion has like unbelievable stats and a very long career. He accrued massive numbers of rebounds and points and everything. I mean, it's a fun question from a Timberwolves fan. We all obviously know Kyle Anderson. I maybe the funner question, what would Kyle Anderson have to do on the Timberwolves to get his number retired? Will we say
maybe punch Rudy Gobert back?
Play 5 more years? At least 4 more years?
Longer than that.
Again, go back to the Tony Allen example. Tony played like 7 years on the Grizzlies.
Is that all?
Am I counting them wrong? It was like 2010 to 2017 or something. Because in 2017 they chose Ben McLemore over Tony Allen. Mm-hmm. That offseason. I'm not bitter. Yeah, like I guess a different question is if Anthony Edwards continues his current trajectory, yeah, the Timberwolves will retire his jersey if he stays on the team.
Also, are we assured that the Timberwolves won't trade Anthony Edwards for a slurry of picks?
No.
I don't trust the Timberwolves.
The question is going to be, will we even remember that Anthony Edwards wore that number 5 jersey? He started with number 5, right? Am I getting this right? He was 5. He's going to 1, and I hadn't put together that he's swapping this with our guy Kyle. I think, yeah. So this has uncovered a lot of questions, follow-up questions. One being, what does it take for Kyle Anderson, period, to get any jersey retired for the Timberwolves? I would say 5-6 years, and if they win a title, maybe. I would say, what would it take for both of Anthony Edwards' jerseys to get retired? I think he's going to have to switch back to 5. He's gonna have to start his career, and then after 10 years, be like, I'm going back.
Somebody needs to choose 3 numbers to see if they can get 3 numbers retired.
What about? I mean, is LeBron going to get his 6 retired on the Lakers? I mean, the Lakers are like the Celtics running out of numbers.
Yeah, I mean, if LeBron goes to Boston, he can't wear any of his numbers, right? Both those are retired.
Speaking of the Timberwolves, they released some new jerseys. I don't know if you saw these.
I haven't.
They look sort of like a lava lamp and or vape smoke.
I love
or
lamp.
water. It's basically the same jersey with the same typeface.
Is it those Dragon
numbers.
Balls that you
But
put in your mouth and
the
you
background is like blue and then
fumes?
white, and then like the way it goes, it's all, I don't know. It's like a sublimated weird printing style that wasn't technologically
Vaporwave?
feasible. Yeah, and I don't love it. I'm very old school. Like, your jersey needs to be a color. Okay? Like, pick the color. Maybe you can have some highlights on the sides, maybe some pinstripes. Like, you can have multiple colors, but the background can't be a shifting color wave. I know Miami had some that they messed around with some. I don't love that. I'm more
Jeff
of a
Kalita asks, my team just signed Garrett Temple.
No. I'm sorry. You can't push me forward. I have to finish this Timberwolves thought. Because this honestly goes back, not just me griping about the design. I'm going to gripe about social media. So like the Timberwolves, they launched this new jersey, whatever, maybe you like it, that's fine. Because of the water theme and the sponsor, they did it on a lake. And they had Nas Reed, Mike Conley, and some rapper.
Sex boat.
Drive
Smoot.
up.
Fred Smoot.
So, John, you naturally make Fred Smoot sex boat joke. I made a joke on social media, and I think this is Elon Musk throttling my page views.
Oh, yeah.
I made a joke. I'm like, is that Latrell Sprewell's yacht? No likes, no interaction. And I was like, what in the world? That joke would have killed in my friend group 15 years ago.
Should have gone Smoot.
So then I was like, should I gone Smoot? Should have gone the football crossover? But that seemed like a very obvious. I'm like, is that the old Milwaukee? And no, nothing. I blame Elon Musk. All right, now you can push me forward. Let's do the next question.
Jeff Kalita asks, my team just signed Garrett Temple.
Yeah.
Should I start my transition to Grizzlies fandom now or ride this out a bit longer? Is hope a prison or simply all that sustains the sports fan?
John, who he play for? Garrett Temple.
No clue.
Yeah, so in the last month, he got signed by the Toronto Raptors.
Oh, woo! I think it's a great time to offboard on the Raptors.
Yeah, I think you can have
we talked about not talking about the schedule. I totally understand why the league's like, Raptors, take a breather. Until you tell us where Pascal Siakam plays, take a breather. I think
Raptors fans, all right, you're riding high. You obviously won a title not very long ago. But the way things are going, I think it's fair to take more of an agnostic approach to be like, you know what? I might still stick here. I'm just gonna keep my options open to see what else might be out there. Spiritually, that is. And I think with Raptors fans, I might, if I were a Raptors fan, I would probably be building up these walls in my heart to keep myself from getting hurt, where I start distancing myself and start looking around. Maybe I have a wandering eye for other teams to see what could be out there. Cause like,
I don't know if you want to come to the Grizzlies. God.
I mean, yeah, the Grizzlies boat, the Grizzlies sex boat was
party
best
barge
to jump on a couple years ago. It's still pretty good. I'm not gonna say don't come to the Grizzlies boat, but I would keep my options open. Cause like, where's Pascal going to be? Where's OG Anunoby going to be? What is Darko Rajakovic going to do with this team as a first-time head coach? What is this lawsuit going to bring forth as the New York Knicks sue the Raptors for stealing their synergy login? Like, you obviously saw the Raptors let Fred VanVleet walk for nothing, no compensation, let him leave as a free agent. They chose to not make any trades at last year's trade deadline. They traded a first-round pick for Jakob Poeltl, who is a fine player, but he's not, hey, we're not going to make the playoffs. Let's trade a first-round pick for Jakob Poeltl. And now, if the Raptors stink this year, they owe a top 6 or 7 pick, or it's only top 6 or 7 protected pick. So, like, they could very easily be giving up the 9th pick of this year's draft or the 10th, 11th, 12th. Like, most people aren't picking them to make the playoffs or make even the play-in. So I think as a Raptors fan,
but I don't think there's.
It's just a big question mark.
Yeah, I just understand offboarding right now. Like, I get it.
Yeah, I also think we had a question. Maybe I should scroll through our Slack channel.
Is hope a prison or simply all that sustains the sports fan? That question.
Oh no, that one's good. Yes, hope is a prison that sustains sports fandom. Yes, absolutely. That's why we celebrate losing in the NBA, because it's like, oh, well, you get a good draft pick. It's pretty good. No, someone asked like what happened to Scotty Barnes. I feel like in a previous question. I can't find it right now. I apologize. And I don't know. Yeah, Scotty Barnes with like, I think maybe, and I was talking with Katie Heindel about this a couple weeks ago on the show. Like maybe they asked him to do too much. They were like, it's like me coaching my son's soccer team once again. And like, maybe I should really focus in on like one thing for them to learn.
You should have just been bringing the orange slices.
Yeah, that's why that should be my job. Let me tell you here, I'll get back to the Scotty Barnes thing in a second. Let me give everyone a glimpse into what it's like to be a tall white man, like the mindset of a tall white man. I've won one soccer game coaching in like the last 4 seasons, and I feel like I'm doing a good job. Like that just lets you know what it's like going through the world.
Short white men also.
As it could be. No, I don't know what's going on with Scotty Barnes.
White men
maybe they asked Scotty Barnes to do. Maybe Nick Nurse was like, "Hey, Scotty, why don't you play the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 5? Let's just try play every position." And he should just be like, "Hey, maybe I should work on making a 10-footer. Let's just work on making a 10-footer and grabbing some rebounds. Make a 10-footer, grab rebounds. I'll play the 4. I'll guard 3s and 4s. Maybe that'll work out best for me."
Well, as a soccer coach, you probably get that. You're like, this is my good player. Go do all the things.
Yeah, so this year,
me and the Little League felt like to me.
Yeah,
like,
me and the kid. So we like were competitive a little bit last season, but we've moved up. Now we're like all 3rd graders in a 3rd and 4th grade league, and there's like some dude like we got crushed on Saturday, and like dudes like making moves, ripping into the side net, like you know, like right. I'm like, oh my goodness, like that kid passed on purpose, and his teammate ripped it into the goal, and I was like, wow, we can't do that with like no defense. We can't do that. It's just like practicing. Anyways, thanks for the questions, everybody. If you want your question to be answered on air, you got to be a Patreon supporter, patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. If you didn't get enough of us answering your questions, well, guess what? We're back at it tomorrow. John and I will be recording a bonus episode also on playback, but in the secret playback room, not this link. So if you're a Patreon supporter, you get a bonus episode tomorrow on Friday, August 25th, 10 a.m. We'll be doing a bonus episode available only to Patreon supporters. Of course, if you join the Patreon, you get access to that. You get access to the Slack channel. You can play fantasy football or basketball if you like. So support the program, patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. All right, John, it's now time for the awards segment of this program. This is an international.
You found the stats.
This is an International Stackhouse of Pancakes Tournament of Champions. We're going to
truly international. Truly.
No. I'm not doing FIBA. Good. There's no way to find all those stats, John. No.
That's what
this is picking the worst shooting performance / the worst performance in a box score for the entire 2022-2023 NBA season. This is a look back at last year. These are 4 guys who won a weekly International Stackhouse of Pancakes award. We're not going to pick the worst shooting performance, the absolute worst performance of all of last year. Here are our 4 nominees, John. Zach LaVine in a 1-point loss to the Magic in November. He was 1 for 14 with 4 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover, no personal fouls. Perhaps try. Next nominee is Terry Rozier. In a loss to Portland on December 26th, he was 2 for 17. 7 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 turnovers, 1 personal foul. Next is Terry Rozier's teammate, PJ Washington, the currently unsigned PJ Washington. PJ Washington, in a loss to the Miami Heat last December, missed all 13 of his field goal attempts, 0 for 13, no points. That was the biggest donut of the season last year. The Fast Break Breakfast biggest donut of the season. He did have 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks, and 3 turnovers, and a personal foul. Those stats are pretty good. And finally, Lauri Markkanen in a win over PJ Washington and Terry Rozier in the Hornets. Lauri Markkanen was 3 for 22 on his field goal attempts, but had 13 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 turnover, and 1 personal foul. So our 4 nominees, John. Zach LaVine, 1 for 14, 4 points, 5 boards. Terry Rozier, 2 for 17, 7.7 assists, 4 boards. PJ Washington, 0 for 13, 0 points, 8 boards, 5 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. And then Larry Markkinen, 3 for 22, 13 points, 13 rebounds. Are there any you're throwing out initially? Like, I feel like this is hard. This is very hard.
I'm going with Levine.
No,
5 boards doesn't do it for me.
1 for 14, 4 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. So here's my thought process. Markkinen, the highest volume and very impressive, 19 missed field goal attempts, 22 field goal attempts, only made 3. That is eye-catching. But the double-double, the 13 points, 13 boards, it's a win. I think I'm throwing Markkinen out. I think the 7.7 assists maybe gets Terry Rozier's 2 for 17 off the hook.
For Terry.
So I'm with you. Like, I went down to PJ Washington just because it's the biggest over we've had in a couple years, over 13.
To me, PJ, the over 13 is very glaring, but like Levine did nothing.
The no personal fouls.
He's got no stats. There's no stats on that page.
Also, you're playing this team that you traded.
Yeah.
Wendell Carter and picks. Franz Wagner, rights to Franz Wagner. Rights to Jet Howard.
You're guarded by Cole Anthony. Come on.
I agree with you, John.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Zach LaVine. On this Tournament of Champions, the worst performance in a box score for the entire 2022-2023 season. By the way, John, of every player last season who had a game where they attempted at least 10 field goal attempts and made less than 20% of those attempts, I'd like to recognize the worst game score, according to Basketball Reference, was for Reggie Jackson. He had a 1 for 12, 6.0 assist, 5 turnover masterpiece.
Who did the Reggie Jackson rehab podcast tour? Who was that?
James Herbert. Also, congratulations to the Denver Nuggets on apparently promising Reggie Jackson that they would sign him again, despite being DMP'd through almost the entire finals.
They had Bones Highland at home.
Also
need an older Bones, a bonesier.
Also,
Bones.
the single worst box plus minus among the 200 some players who had at least 10 field goal attempts in a game and made under 20% of those field goal attempts. That goes to Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, baby.
Our guy Dylan Brooks for a 2 for 30.
The $80 million man.
86 million. Don't short him. 2 for 13 in a game against the Nets. He went 2 for 13 with 4 points, 0 rebounds, and 2 turnovers. Kudos Dylan Brooks. And speaking of Dylan Brooks, kudos to me, John. In honor of Dylan Brooks getting 4 or 5 assists in a couple games in a row. He's passing the ball more. Kudos to me. What is something that you feel like you did a good job with or that you got right that you'd like to be recognized for?
Well, I was pretty sure that all of the Grizzlies televised games would miraculously take place after Ja Morant returns.
Good call. Kudos to you. Good call. Listen, the NBA did not shun the Grizzlies. The NBA is in love with the Grizzlies. You get one ESPN game in the first 25 that's part of the play-in or the in-season. God, I'm going to get that wrong every single time. Yeah. The play-in-season tournament.
No Boston Marcus Smart revenge game on national TV.
That's right. That's right. That's a little upsetting. But then after Ja comes back, yeah, they got 13 over the final like 50 something games. That's pretty good. Here's a kudos to me. Kind of a weird one, but I would like to compliment myself on already knowing that Anthony Edwards and Austin Reaves are good basketball players.
In other news,
in FIBA,
yeah,
in FIBA, like those guys are playing really, really well. And everyone's like, "Oh my god!"
if you can just schedule a diet of teams whose best players are Dennis Schroeder and Maxi Kleber.
Yeah, Greece against Greece, Puerto Rico, and Slovenia without Luka. Yeah. They look pretty good. Yeah, Anthony Edwards was great against Germany, but everyone's like, "Oh, Anthony Edwards is making the leap." Steve Kerr's called him the guy, and I'm not opposed to Anthony Edwards actually making the leap. Yeah, sure, why not? But like Anthony Edwards, in his career, averages 28 points per game in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was about to say he's put some major.
He's already been good.
Hat dunks on the Grizzlies. I mean, he's had over 40 points against us multiple times, right?
Although this, I mean, and also we've known he's cool. Here's the latest Anthony Edwards is cool little anecdote. According to Joe Varden, Steve Kerr coaching the FIBA men's team, Team USA, kind of asked Anthony Edwards to come off the bench, and Anthony Edwards was not cool with it.
That's very Steve Kerr.
And Steve Kerr was like, hey, Dwayne Wade came off the bench behind Kobe. And Anthony Edwards says, all right, we don't have a Kobe. So good job, Anthony Edwards. But like, we knew Anthony Edwards might win the MVP this year, but we already knew he was awesome. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to limit him. Maybe he is making a leap, but like you said, lighting up Germany and Spain. Yeah, no, he averaged 28 points per game in the playoffs already.
Yeah.
And then Austin Reaves.
Austin Reaves averaged 28 against the Grizzlies in the
playoffs.
Like,
yeah. I saw a prominent Lakers person who was like a very good Lakers reporter who's very funny and intelligent, just does a great job. Maybe this is just, we all say silly things on social media, but they were like, do you think if free agency had occurred after FIBA, would a team like the Spurs or somebody else have been more likely to offer Austin Reaves this big offer sheet of like 5 years, 100 million, or 4 years, 80 million? And like you say, John, are there NBA GMs watching FIBA who didn't watch the NBA playoffs? He had 7 20-point games in the playoffs this year.
Austin Reaves is awesome.
Austin Reaves is really, really good. A big reason why the Lakers beat the Warriors, beat the Grizzlies, and made it to the conference finals. It was because Austin Reaves was great. So I'm confused. So kudos to me, John.
And I
already knew Austin Reaves and Anthony Edwards were good.
I'm pretty sure Kenneth Faried didn't get paid for his international.
Oh wait, he might have gotten paid.
Did he get paid? Think so? I don't know.
I can't remember the order of Kenneth Faried getting his big contracts.
Anytime anytime any kind of international play stuff starts to like get my juices going, I just repeat Kenneth Faried 3 times like it's Candyman. I hope he doesn't appear behind me.
I love FIBA. So FIBA kicks off on Saturday. Team USA plays New Zealand. That's too early, and I have kids soccer, so I can't play back that one.
Does New Zealand have anyone? Is there a Jock Lawndale? Is there
you just offended our very prominent Australian and New Zealand listening contingent. Jock Landale is
Australian.
Yeah, is Australian. So I got distracted. I just got an email from the soccer league that was like, "Oh, we're canceling games," but it was like way far away. I thought they were canceling them before for Heat this week, but no, they're canceling them for Easter, which is next year. Like literally, I just got an email that said, "Hey, soccer games are canceled for April 16th."
Faith first, baby.
What? No, New Zealand doesn't have anybody to worry about. No, Team USA's group play should be pretty easy, but they do play on Monday against Greece. I will be doing a playback for that game Monday morning, bright and early, 7:30 a.m. I might be a little bit late as I drop the kids off at school, but definitely by the end of the first quarter, I'll be in there. So go to playback.tv/fastbreak breakfast. Par fadeaway, John. What thing are you looking forward to in the coming week or weeks? Is it the legal resolution of our Knicks Raptors lawsuit? Is it the arbiter deciding how much money, if any, James Harden should get fined?
I was going to say I was looking forward to the diss track James Dolan writes about this situation.
Oh yeah, he's going to cut a song about it.
I mean, he's written songs about Harvey Weinstein, so I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he wrote a song being like, I should have been aware. Should have known about the sexual harassment going on all around me.
When those women cried those tears.
Just a normal bluesman singing about bluesman things, being a billionaire, overseeing sexual harassment of employees and done by my friends. My par fadeaway is I guess what's going to happen with the who's going to give Usman Garuba and Ty Washington a chance? Those poor guys have been cut and dumped like 4 times in the last week. Not the last week, but it's been like they got traded away.
I shop all-star Ty Washington.
First of all, they got traded away so the Rockets could pay Dylan Brooks his money.
Oh God. These
are pretty high draft investments from the past couple seasons. And then the Hawks are like, no, we do not want these guys. We don't have a roster spot for them. Let's send them to the Thunder. The Thunder have like 21 guys on their team and they're like, no, we're good. And now you have, and I don't know, like I saw Alex Spears who podcasts for The Athletic being like, how many guys from the last 2 drafts could you just cut and no one would claim? And it might be an incredibly high number.
I mean, it's probably not as high just because they don't want to admit the investment was poor, but yeah.
No, I'm saying you don't want to cut guy. You wouldn't do it, but let's just say that happened. Let's even turn it back another year. Like if
for sure.
If somebody cuts Zaire Williams.
Yeah, please.
And but Zaire's making like $5 million or something a year. So like a team has to have that much cap space to claim him. And then you have to have a roster spot. And it seems like the way NBA rosters work now, it's like, man, our roster spots are taken. Are we cutting somebody loose to see if Usman Garuba turns out okay?
Man, it won't be the Grizzlies. Don't we have like 17 guys on our team right now?
Yeah. So we have Josh Christopher, who might get cut. We have this guy, Isaiah Todd, who was like the 31st or 32nd pick a couple years ago.
Cut Zaire. Let's just do it.
But I'm saying like everyone's rosters are full at this point. Yeah. You cut somebody loose. Poor Kennedy Chandler can't get a deal. Your boy.
Hey.
They've abandoned your child. I'm sorry, man.
Probably like the best Vols prospect I can remember, just in the wind.
Yeah. That's too bad. Well, anyways, thanks everybody for watching this on playback. All of you in here, make sure you catch the next time we do this on playback. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want to play fantasy football, you got to let me know. If you want to get access to the exclusive bonus episode dropping on Friday, if you want to join our listener Slack, all of that goes to our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. All right, you guys are the best. Thanks for listening. And remember, breakfast is the most important thing.